Welcome to Thursday Thoughts, your weekly dose of real, honest conversation on all things personal growth. These are the chats Lucy and I love having every week over on Instagram. They're unfiltered, unedited, and always rooted in practical tools and a dose of inspiration. Let's dive in.
Hey guys, so welcome to Thursday Thoughts. So this might sound a little bit better than usual because Polly and I are on Zoom and I'm actually using my mic. So it will sound better than our usual Monday motivations do. But basically the reason we're doing it here is because, to cut a very long story short, it is now Wednesday. Polly and I jumped on on Instagram Live on Monday and Tuesday. And on Monday it wouldn't save, so we couldn't put it out on the podcast. On Tuesday we had the same or the same topic of conversation again, and then there was no sound. And then we just came back on again this morning on Instagram Live and people couldn't hear us. So we just thought, fuck it, you know what? We're just going to do a 15-minute chat, and we're just going to put this out as our Thursday Thoughts this week. So basically what we talked about on Monday and Tuesday is different to what we're going to talk about today. On Monday and Tuesday, we talked about what to do when you're having a wobble, there's something difficult going on in your life. But basically, Polly and I are so sick of that subject, having had the same conversation 2 days in a row. We're actually talking about something different today. So there you go. And we are talking about not living in the past. And we've literally just started this conversation off on Instagram, and here we are again. So let's see where it goes this time. So basically, I think what I started off by saying was, maybe ask so this really is about, obviously, all of us think about the past, on and off. Of course we do. But I think what this is about, or what we're trying to talk about today, is we don't want to be stuck in the past. We don't want to be living in a story from the past that is holding us back, or we don't want to be ruminating over something that we did in the past that we're ashamed of or embarrassed about or feel bad about or whatever. So that's essentially what this conversation is about. So my question this morning when we were on Instagram Live just now was, how often do you find yourself getting stuck in the past? How often do you find yourself thinking about the past? And actually, it doesn't, the other thing I want to add is it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're ruminating on something or you're stuck on a story from the past or anything like that. It can also just be that you spend a lot of time daydreaming about your past, quote, the good old days or whatever it is. If you find yourself thinking more about the good old days of way back when, is that perhaps telling you that maybe you need a little bit more direction or intention for where you're actually going? Because again, while it's fine to be thinking about the past and we all do it and, kind of reminisce and all the rest of it, actually, we sort of want to be living more with a vision of our future in mind and grateful for the present, than we do living in the past. Over to you, Polly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important to just note here that when we're living in the past, that is when it's just making us feel stuck. We're not actually moving anywhere. We're just stuck in those memories. If they're happy, amazing. It is nice to reminisce, and we all love reminiscing about happy times. But how much time are you there? Are you stuck there? So, which means that you're not really living your life today, now. And I think what you're saying is that actually it's always really good to have a focus but we can move towards. I'm not saying that we should be constantly living in that future, but we have a vision of the future. We have something to work towards, which can then help us to, in the present, live a life that we really want to be living. Because often, if we don't have that vision of the future, we can literally just be kind of drudging through our days unintentionally, with no real focus. And that is when often we can then start worrying too much about the future of things that may or may not happen. And that's when we feel really anxious. or we can actually start continue to worry and ruminate over those things which have happened in the past, which we all naturally do. If you made a bit of a dick of yourself and you've said something which you regret, or something happened and it was just mortifyingly embarrassing, yes, we do go over that again and again in our mind. However, we don't want to get stuck there, because what's that serving us? It's done. It's done. We can move, let go of that now, move forward. So it's just becoming aware of how often do you find yourself stuck ruminating on those things which might have happened, which were slightly mortifying, or even if you are just stuck on memories from the past and then bringing yourself back to the future. So you did mention just now before on Instagram Live, Joe Dispenza,
Oh,
who
yeah.
is brilliant at helping you visualize, well, create a vision of your future self. And when we create a vision of our future self, it allows us to really try and embody that version of ourselves, so we can become that. And again, we're not saying live in that vision, living in the future and not being present, but it's almost like bringing that vision into the present,
Yeah.
so that you are living the life that you really want to be living,
Yeah.
which is much more empowering and exciting and makes you feel good.
Absolutely. And actually, when it comes to manifestation, a topic I think both you and I love, I certainly do. I certainly do. The key actually is to be grateful for the life that you currently have, grateful for the present, but excited about the future. And going back to Joe Dispenza, yeah, I mean, his work is incredible. His work is really, anyone who hasn't heard of him, do go and check out Joe Dispenza. I've listened to about 1,000 podcasts with him on by now. One thing actually about Joe Dispenza is he always speaks really quickly and doesn't take a breath. And so sometimes you're like, oh my God, slow down. But he is brilliant. And yeah, like you were saying, he encourages people to have, create a vision for their future. And this is something that I talk about. I sort of guide people through every morning in my morning routine club, Cockadoodle, because one of the little sections of Cockadoodle is visualization. And I will get people to think about, to bring to mind a vision of their future, and just look at that. So one of the visualizations that I talk people through is to imagine that you're sitting in a movie theater in like one of those kind of plush armchairs in like an
Mm-hmm.
everyman theater. And it's warm and cozy, and you're kind of all comfy in this lovely armchair, and the screen lights up in front of you, and what appears on the screen is the future version of you. And I ask people to notice, how is she spending her days? What is she doing? Who's she with? Where is she? And then crucially, what what is the look on her face, and how does she seem in herself? Like, does she seem joyful, confident? And so, yeah, it's really about kind of getting as clear as any of us can on that vision of our future, whilst at the same time being really grateful for the life that we have. That is the magic combination when it comes. Well, I mean, that, forget manifestation, but that's the sort of magic combination that all of us want for life, is to feel really grateful for where we are now and enjoying our life and being in the moment, but at the same time, always in the back of our mind, having this idea of where we're headed. And actually, one thing I would suggest people do is literally write down on a piece of paper, you know, describe what that future version of you looks like. What does a day in the life of future you look like? Because apart from anything else, that gets you really excited about it, and then you can start taking those baby steps that you and I talk about so much. I mean, I'm slightly going off onto a tangent of the topic of this conversation and talking about the future rather than the past, but again, it's just about making sure that we are not spending too much time going over things from the past that we cannot change. And look, I have totally been guilty of that many times. Something that I felt really bad about, or something that's happened that I can't let go of, or maybe it's a previous relationship, or something that happened, whatever it is, we all do that. But it's recognizing how much time are you spending there, because at the end of the day, what is that? What are you gaining from that? I think you said that earlier. How is that serving you? How is it serving you to be living in the past? And again, going back to memories, it's like, of course, it's lovely to think about memories from the past, but if you're spending more time reliving your past life, that that does tell you something about your future life, because I think if you're really happy and content and grateful for the life that you currently have, whilst you're still going to think about things from the past, you're not going to be living there. And I think the danger is that some people live there, and that's what we don't want to happen, because that is not serving us.
Yeah. I think getting insight out from your past is so important. So things that you have been through, things that you have learned, getting the insight out in which can then help you today and in the future is vital. So if you've been through a really difficult experience, rather than going over and over that experience again, because the danger then it becomes your identity, it becomes who you are, it becomes your state of being. But instead of going over and over it again, actually look at it and go, gosh, what did I learn from that experience? What can I take from that experience? Because there's learning in all experiences. I'm learning that. We all know that. I'm learning about that right now. There is so much learning from tough experiences that you may have been through. So it's the invitation is not to cling on to that experience, create an identity and be the victim of it. It's to take the insight from it, and learn from it and move forward.
Yeah.
And that is the goal. Those are the nuggets, and they can really help you. Excuse me. They can really help you form, the version of you that you really want to be. And also, when you do have those moments, and I'm just talking more about fleeting moments or moments where you are just literally cringing at something that perhaps you did in the past.
Do it all the time.
Seriously. And we've got so good at this, because this was, I know when we first met a few years ago, we were both terrible at this. It was constantly worrying what people would think, and constantly worrying, putting something out and going, oh, and then worrying about it. But actually, it's a skill that you can learn. It's a muscle that you can work about just letting it go, by just not giving a damn about what it is. So for me this week on Monday, when we talked about my wobble, which we're not going to talk about again, because we've already done it, on Monday, I put out a reel on Instagram, which I don't know why, something made me video it, my thoughts of how I was feeling at the time, because I did think, maybe there'll be there might be some learning in this, some insight in how I'm feeling. And honestly, I pressed play. I really thought long and hard about it. I mean, I pressed send, and then I let it go. The old me, and I so could have done this, I would have worried, oh my goodness, what are people going to think? And really ruminated on that. But I literally just went, right, done, it's out there,
Yeah.
and moved on. And that, I think the only way to get comfortable with that is just to do it, and to embrace those uncomfortable feelings, because it still did feel uncomfortable, and it did feel like, but I've got really good now at just literally putting it out of my mind and going, I've done that, and moving on. And to be honest, no one really cares. It's like, it's old news for a lot of people. And actually the response I had was just so amazing. And lots of people said, I really needed to hear that today as well, because I totally understand. So it goes to show that, just if you have a thought, if you have an impulse, do it, and don't dwell on it, move forwards.
It's this is such a great point, Polly, and I love this. And like you say, this right now, what we're doing is such a good example of this. In fact, yesterday when you and I spoke on the phone, we were talking about, oh fuck, what are we going to put out on for Thursday Thoughts? If and we were basically thinking about which of our previous Thursday Thoughts we might be able to put out again, like one of the early ones, and we were both like, oh my God, I'm not bloody listening to them. It's because cringe. And I for some reason feel like the earlier ones probably, like I'm even more of a twat on them than I are on the more
Yeah,
recent
it's
ones. But
funny.
actually,
Yeah, we've let those ones go. And
yeah,
again, it's like we just don't want to listen. And it's,
yeah,
yeah, and I bet they're not half as bad as we think they are.
yeah,
But again, in my mind, they're gone, they're done, they're gone. I don't want to
exactly.
re listen.
Exactly. And I absolutely feel the same way. And I think we should both be really proud of ourselves actually about this because I, like you, especially when it comes to Instagram and especially these conversations that you and I have, like if we allowed ourselves to be worrying about the past Thursday thoughts slash Monday motivations, like and also you and I, just full disclosure to anyone listening to this, you and I have had conversations after several of of these conversations where we've got on the phone and one of us will have phoned the other up, and we've both done it. Like I've phoned you and gone, oh my God, what the hell was I even on about this morning? Like, what is wrong with me? Like I wasn't making any sense. And you've done similar with me. But even still, we're just like, fuck it. And we've never deleted one. We've never edited them ever. They just go out as they are. And I have to say, it's super freeing to be able to do that. And it is just a muscle. Like you say, you've just got to freaking do it. And both of us do this on Instagram. And the thing that you put out the other day, yes, I know exactly what you mean. It was very vulnerable. And there's a past version of you that would have been like, oh my God, what's everyone going to think? But I think, A, it's good to get uncomfortable and it's really freeing to just put something out and then genuinely not worry about it. Because I'm the same as you in as much as, and with the podcast, well, what I do on Instagram, I put things out that make me cringe all the time. I swear to God, 2 minutes later, I just don't think about it again. I don't care. It's out there, whatever. I said it in the moment, you know what I mean? But also the other thing to remember is that literally no one cares. So, let's say that somebody listening has had said something in a meeting at work that made them feel a bit stupid or whatever. They were like, oh God, why did I say that? I remember the days where I would do something like that and then I would agonize over it for the rest of the day, or it would cut, I'd think about it during the week and I'd be like, oh my God, like I'm such a dick. What is wrong with me? And actually, the other people had probably forgotten about it within 5 minutes of leaving the goddamn room. So why do we worry about? I mean, this is obviously a bit more kind of, we're talking about the sort of more kind of shallow things here. But when it comes to not living in the past, if you are one of those people that finds yourself worrying, obsessing over something that you said or did or whatever, you just got to let it go. You just got to let it go. You just got to make a decision to go, no, I am not doing this. It is done. There is nothing I can do about it. And unless you're going to like phone someone up and go, I'm really sorry about what I said. But if you're not going to do anything about it and it's not going to change anything, you've got to let it go. And remember that all of us are way too busy thinking about ourselves than what other people are doing,
Yeah.
And yeah,
And every day, we're so lucky. We have a new day every 24 hours.
yeah,
And every 24 hours is an amazing opportunity to reset, to start again. So if you had something did not go well yesterday, if something did not go well last week or last year, guess what? We've got another day to reset, to start again and move forwards. And that is the beauty of it. And that is a muscle. And this is why I prefer things like coaching rather than therapy, because I think the danger, we've talked about this before, I think, the danger of therapy and going over the past, going over and over things, is that you're sort of stuck in them and you're still telling yourself that same old story.
yeah,
And actually, what we want to be doing is moving forwards and looking for ways to get unstuck and let that go. So yes, sometimes we need to understand things about our past, of how it shapes your current reality, but don't get stuck there. Let's move forward because it's not helping anyone. All we have is right now. And this is our opportunity to mold and craft the life that we want to live, to be the best version of ourselves, to have, to be joyous and spacious and peaceful and all the things. So letting go of that past stuff. And we've seen multiple examples of people who have had really tough beginnings, who have been in trouble, who've been in prison, who have come from nothing, really difficult situations in their past. And we have seen them completely transform their lives
yeah.
and to something now where they're living. They're not stuck. But we also all know those people who've also had really difficult lives, who are still living in those difficult lives and unable to get past it.
Yeah.
So you know, we know that, we can see it. So it really is, how are you managing to get past it? You know, take the support, get the help you need, but don't get stuck there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we said we were going to do a short one, so I reckon
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Huh.
much nearly done. How about you?
Yes. Yes. Let's hope this is recorded.
Let's hope exactly. Let's hope it's saved.
All right.
Thanks everyone for listening. If you did, sorry this is a little
Yeah.
bit random, but yeah,
Yeah. Perfect. Well,
really
hopefully we'll be back next week, or we might be back on Zoom next week. Who knows?
exactly. Who knows? Sending you lots of love.
All right, my love.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.